Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel and the podcast. Sal Vetri here. And how you doing? Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a mock draft. Now, this is going to be a best ball mock draft, and it's all viewers. So it's all Twitter followers, it's all viewers. I put out a couple calls to action on this YouTube channel, on this podcast, Twitter, Instagram, all the social followings that you can find me on. And it's a 12-man PPR format. It is best ball focused, but we're before the NFL draft right now. So there's a ton of strategy that we can talk about throughout this draft, but very much a straight up draft type of scenario here. You can just draft it like a normal 12-team standard PPR, but obviously the best ball format in style or in your mind. I'll talk about the best ball format in a second, but welcome if you're brand new. I want to be rolling this out probably by the summer on a weekly basis with all viewers. This is a free to enter contest. So I'm going to be breaking down my picks depending on how long of a gap between the picks there are. It's supposed to be a 20-second clock, just for your knowledge there. I'll decide if I'm going to be cutting out players' picks and just go to straight through my picks. But either way, it's going to be probably mostly a full mock draft here. I'm going to be doing these. It's on drafters.com, this one. Best ball not really out there in many places. Drafters has been a proud partner of this show for about a year and a half, going on 2 years now. So it is on drafters.com. If you want to sign up for Drafters, you can see the promo code on the screen. That's up to you totally. But thank you for being here. We're going to be doing these best balls on, a weekly basis, come probably July and August, those big summer months for fantasy football. But I want to do one now before the NFL draft. I want to do one after the NFL draft as well. And then if the viewers, if you, ladies and gentlemen, watching this, enjoy it, we'll continue to do it. So kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. This thing's going to start in about a minute and a half. You can see, maybe you can't zoom in right now. I'm the 8th pick in this draft. So let me give you the specifics. It is a 12-team PPR, point per reception. It is 20 seconds per pick, so it's going to be a fast clock. We have 2 quarterbacks. We have 3 running backs, 3 receivers. I believe it is 1 tight end and 1 flex position. No defense. It's best ball format. What does best ball mean? Best ball means once you draft your team, if you're not familiar, you don't have to change anything about your team. You draft your team, you can't trade, you can't drop, there's no transactions, you don't change your bench players. You're pretty much just set with that team, and that's where you go with that. Now, this one's going to have a total of 18 players that you can have. It's going to be a ton of just bench players and things like that. But what you're pretty much looking at that point is it's going to take your highest scoring players from each week, usually 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 1 to 2 quarterbacks, depending on your league, and then maybe one of your flex positions. It'll take off your bench out of all the remaining positions that are not in cornerback, and it'll just take that highest total, and each week that'll be your team. So you don't got to worry about, I sat Deshaun Jackson, he just went off for 100 yards and a touchdown. The enjoyment out of it is it's very draft centric. So if you can get in early in the summer and you feel like you know players before they're going to get hyped up in the media in camp, that's a way to get an edge. It's very correlation centric as this draft starts in 15 seconds. So if you think the Dallas Cowboys offense is going to do good and you can snag both Dak and Amari, like DFS, if you are a DFS viewer, Daily Fantasy Sports, Draftkings, FanDuel, well, bam, you just snagged yourself a correlation stack. If Amari has a huge year, you can be damn sure that it probably means that Dak's having one too. You just have to get less things right. There it is. The draft just started right now. I don't believe I have my sound on, but let's just check it. There we go. We got a couple of viewers in here. Every single person watching this is somehow connected through a social channel. The first pick went to Christian McCaffrey. That should not shock anybody at all. I will zoom in. You can see the picks coming in right here and the clock. Second pick ends up being Saquon. So I'll zoom in here and then we can go through my team when we get there. But this is just the board that we're looking at. Overall rankings based on the average ADP that Drafters has in here right now. First pick was McCaffrey. Second pick was Saquon. So the goal, third pick was Ezekiel Elliott. These are my rankings right now, by the way. Not on the screen, but those 3 running backs going first are my overall rankings. You could actually, Michael Thomas is the best one left on the board. I'm picking 8th. The goal, once you have more information, which after the draft we will, you can try and get correlation out of these teams. When you stack teams in DFS, you have a better chance of winning because you have to get less things right more times than not. There's some outliers to that. Michael Thomas goes 4th there. But when you're stacking teams in, let's just say, best ball, it can be the same exact thing. Dalvin Cook goes 5th. Buddy Lewis on the clock, shout out Buddy. So if you stack teams, you're going to have an advantage if that team plays off. Now, it's a very boom or bust situation. If the team just stinks, you're probably not winning anything in best ball and any of the huge prizes, whether it was $1 million on draft last year, whatever it might be as those top prizes, but you have a better chance to do it when things go right, as opposed to other situations where you might not. Now, I'm drafting 8th in this draft, and again, this is depending on when you're watching this. We're a week before the NFL draft. I'm on the clock. Devontae Adams just went 7th, and man, oh man, I'm left with some very astrayed names here. So I have 10 seconds to draft. Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Aaron Jones, DeAndre I'm probably going to stick it out and get with Julio Jones here. So I reached a little bit, but I'll tell you why. So this is best ball. Now, Tyreek Hill is going to be high in the rankings because he is a boomer bust player. He has a lot of boom weeks. So when he drops those 35-point weeks, if it's PPR format, his 30-point weeks, whatever it might be, goes off for 150 yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns, has 10 catches those weeks, his bomb weeks, they're going to be very impactful in best ball because nobody's even coming close to that, and that's going to go towards your total. The weeks where he only has 8 points, which he does often, and he doesn't pop off, you can see Tyreek goes at number 10. Those are the weeks that are going to also be not as effective so it's going to hurt you in standard leagues in your season-long PPR formats, dynasty leagues, but in best ball it doesn't hurt as much because you have a ton of other players who, if somebody else goes for 20 that week, it's not that big of a deal. I'm on the clock yet again here, and I actually like what we're getting here. So, I like what we're seeing here. We have Hopkins still on the clock. We have one of our wide receivers and no running backs yet. I could get to Mixon here. 5 seconds to go. I'm going to go with Hopkins. Obviously, we can talk about Hopkins' situation. Hopkins now being in Arizona. One, I don't think it changes his role that much. I would have Hopkins as a top 4 receiver regardless of if he was in Houston or if he was in Arizona. I probably put him at 4 right now while he's in Arizona. I probably would have had him at rivaling number 2, right around number 3 with Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams if he was still in Houston. Just the chemistry, not as many weapons that threaten him when you're looking now at the backfield there with Kenyon Drake catches passes. You're looking just around everywhere in Arizona with Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, who's going to cut into it. I still think he's by far the number 1 player there. I think that offense is going to gel, get to the red zone where he's just been dominant with Devontae Adams over the past few years. Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon, a little bit of a streaks of a running backs goes off the board here. So you can see 3 out of the last 4 picks were running backs with me sandwiched in between. So right now, my team in this best ball draft starts off with Julio and DeAndre Hopkins. I feel good about that. I'm not going to lie. Now, we'll see if I can correlate that with some of their quarterback play later on. Deshaun Watson no longer. Matt Ryan or Kyler Murray would be your ultimate goals there. Lamar just goes off the board, I believe, the first quarterback, 18th overall. We'll take a look at my team a little bit later on, but now's a spot where so best ball, you want to shoot for upside when you're not going to get those secure running backs, which like once you pass the top 8 to 10 running backs, you're not as secure anymore in their role for a variety of reasons. You can see Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, both those guys go off the board. Seeing both of them go off the board really does hurt me, especially since Kenyon Drake went before them. I'm not going to have much left at running back, but we got the 2 elite receivers right now. We're going to have to string together some running backs, a little bit of a bolder strategy. Really big on Josh Jacobs. If you haven't checked out my other YouTube videos on some of the second-year backs, on some of the running backs that seem interesting to me right now. Honestly, Eckler, Jacobs, these guys were in those videos. Mahomes, second quarterback off the board. So let me know in the comments what you think of these types of videos, these mock drafts. I actually find a lot of value in them. I know it's early, but I want to see how everything looks a week before the NFL draft. Obviously, when players get shuffled around, teams are a little bit different. Depth at running back, receiver, all these positions, offensive lines are bolstered, defenses are better, which helps the offenses through the draft. Trades potentially happening. We'll know a lot more, and I'll do another one after that. So you can see now a second string of receivers is going off the board. Odell, Amari going off. I still need my running back right now, but there's still some really good receivers left. You can see Mike Evans goes right there. Running back is in a interesting spot, and I really hope Coach 21 doesn't snipe me because Miles Sanders is on the board still, and after Miles Sanders, things get really shaky. So I'm really hoping Coach doesn't take Miles Sanders on the board here because I could use that upside. And I'll talk a little bit about Miles Sanders either way here. But and he takes Leonard Fournette, and this is huge. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Miles Sanders. So he passes up on Miles Sanders. Leonard Fournette, as of literally an hour ago, was labeled as potentially being trade bait out of Jacksonville. That could mean upside depending on where he lands. I get my first running back. Miles Sanders, he goes for Leonard Fournette. I would much rather have Sanders. I think Fournette's pass catching capabilities obviously shot upwards last year. This Eagles defense has been bolstered. That's going to help their offense just sustain some drives. Obviously, if they have more time to rest. And 2, shorter drives if defense can force turnovers. Better secondary with Darius Slay, Robbie Coleman there, Hargrave on the defensive line. But also, this offense is going to get better just naturally. A really good offensive line, number 1 in run blocking last year. We'll talk more after this pick. But let's see what we got here. Running backs, we still need a couple of those guys. Obviously, we don't know what's happening with the draft. Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, it's really difficult to kind of judge where those guys are going to end up this year. Todd Gurley's on the board. I'm going to end up going with Devin Singletary here. So I go a little bit of a reach. Maybe I could have made it background, but I'm not going to wait for it. So another second year back there, both in Singletary and Sanders. I like both their situations, to be honest with you. Specifically for Devin Singletary, the issue there is Josh Allen's red zone role. 30% red zone usage as a quarterback last year. That stinks, but 37% red zone usage in Frank Gore is now gone. So there's a big leg up. If you're looking at Devin Singletary, pass catching role is a question. Miles Sanders got 50 balls last year on 53% of the snaps. So that's going to surely shoot up without a doubt with Jordan Howard now in Miami. The red zone role of 26% is also going to go up for Miles Sanders. So feel good about these running backs in terms of their upside, especially Sanders. Singletary maybe not as high of a ceiling as Sanders. It's pretty close, to be honest with you. That Bills offense should be a playoff bound. So we got our two running backs, we got our two receivers. I feel really good about the receivers. I feel solid about the running backs. I want more upside in these best ball drafts. So I could have gone and taken Le'Veon Bell. I could have gone and gotten Fournette and the safe 10 points a week out of them. But I feel like their upside right now in their offense is one, the Jets and Jacksonville, where we stand today, and just their skill sets as maybe not players who have hit their peak. Bell probably hit his peak. Fournette, who knows what his peak is? Maybe he's just plateauing at it since he came into the league. But I do think that Sanders and Devin Singletary's arrows are pointing up heading into a second year, where those other guys, Bell, Fournette, they're kind of just staying flat, if not trending downward. So lots of receivers coming off the board, 4 in a row. A.J. Brown, a big popular name, number 1 second-year receiver in my opinion. Juju, 3rd year coming into the league. Cooper Kupp, now with no, obviously, Brandon Cooks out there, should see an expanded role. Devontae Parker, busted onto the scene last year with Ryan Fitzpatrick, looking like a dominant receiver. Lots of guys coming off the board. You can see what's happening right now on my screen if you can see these names here. DeAndre Swift, and you just saw Jonathan Taylor, the first rookie to go. And there you go. DeAndre Swift goes second. I actually think Swift is the better player. It depends on the location, which is why right now I want to do this draft. There goes Kyler Murray. That one hurts a little bit. Right now I want to do this draft, but I also want to do this draft again in a week or two once the actual season is over, or the NFL draft is over, so that we can go back in and see where these rookies are and how that's going to affect their rankings compared to right now. Stephon Diggs is still on the board right here. I already have one player from his team. Not a bad idea to try and stack this team up a little bit. If Coach 21 doesn't snipe me again and take my Diggs, he didn't. He took Russell Wilson. So now we got some options. Steph Diggs is on the board. Whew. What else do we got here? I'm going to take Steph Diggs. I like this spot for him. Steph Diggs dropped really low. So our 3 receivers right now are Stephon Diggs is wide receiver 3, Julio, and DeAndre Hopkins, 12-team PPR. I like that a lot. Steph Diggs obviously going to be a field stretcher, a technician in all parts of the field for Josh Allen, who Josh Allen was the number 1 player in the entire NFL in intermediate passing between 10 and 25 yards last year. 10 and 20 yards last year, excuse me. Number 1 player in the entire league. People saying he's inaccurate, obviously coming out of the draft. That was one of his biggest knocks. We're stopped at receiver right now. We could obviously fit the flex in. Let's see. We need to fill one more running back. We obviously need our 2 quarterbacks, which is starting to get sketchy on my end. We still have Josh Allen. We have a little bit of a ways to go before we need to fire in on one of these guys for sure. Running backs, I think we can wait and get some upside. Marlon Mack is looking pretty tasty there. Tight ends, we have Darren Waller still on the board, but I think I can probably wait there. I think I might go with Marlon Mack here, mainly because I'm running out of time. I had 1 second to make that pick, and Mack's name actually stands out a little bit more. We'll see what happens with his pass catching role. That's a bet on his pass catching role, but as my 6th pick off the board, my 3rd running back, I feel good about Marlon Mack there. You're going to get Philip Rivers, who checks down a lot. Also going to keep drives alive a lot more, so more red zone work for Marlon Mack. The issue there is, are you going to just get 12 to 15 carries a game out of Mack, or can you get to where he was before injury last year, where he led the league through the first 4 weeks ahead of Christian McCaffrey in rushing attempts? He was at around like 20 per game. So we need our quarterbacks now. I almost wanted to reach there and go ahead and grab Josh Allen, but I thought it might be a little bit too early. Pairing Josh Allen with Diggs and Singletary, that is a really good stack and a good idea for best ball. I do like that format. We still have the flex, obviously. There's some names still left on this board that are really good. I mean, you have James Conner here, who's probably a top 20 back in a lot of people's rankings right now. And then you start to get into a lot of sketchier type players. Michael Gallup's down here. Terry McLaurin, probably my number 2 rated second-year receiver, right now up there with DK Metcalf. I think I need to go ahead and get a quarterback, especially since Watson just came off the board. I got a couple picks to my name, probably like 6 or 7, but Dak and Josh Allen both look really good on this board right now. I'm also not opposed to getting to a Matt Ryan. The upside is not as much there, but if he's my 2nd quarterback, that's not a bad idea. Then you start getting into not a wasteland, but a really sketchy area of quarterbacks with the Bakers, the Daniel Jones, who honestly Jones might have more upside heading into this. Melvin Gordon goes off the board there at pick 63. I don't want any of Melvin Gordon. He's going to be in a 3-headed backfield where I think Royce Freeman might get cut. But Philip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon back there. Gordon should be the goal line guy. I see people projecting 18 touches for him per game in terms of his overall usage. Right now, as we sit in April, I can't see it being that much. If there's going to be at least 2 running backs in this backfield, they're not going to just phase out Philip Lindsay. They do want to move him into more of a pass-catching guy, which is where he came into the league. And with Tom Brady just getting selected, we have locked in at least Josh Allen or Dak Prescott. And I hope it's Josh Allen. Once again, Coach 21, the guy who's in front of us, has not sniped this yet, has been a good friend to us, a loyal viewer. He sent me a message actually earlier in the chat. He takes Terry McLaurin. Thank you. Do we need to take him yet? Can we get there? We might reach for Josh Allen here. Who's left on the board at wide receiver? Not much that stands out to me. I think I'm going to reach for Josh Allen a little bit, my quarterback one. People think I'm crazy. One, Josh Allen's rushing upside is elite. 30% red zone rushing. He has design runs called for him. Two, he has now 2 field stretchers and a very, very underrated slot wide receiver in Cole Beasley and a strong running game with an offensive line and a defense. Josh Allen is 40-1 to win the MVP. I'm not saying go and bet that. Those are long odds. But I'm saying that division winners usually win the MVP, or at least playoff quarterbacks usually win the MVP. I think the Bills have a really good chance to make the playoffs, so that narrows the field down to probably being better than 40-1 odds. He's our quarterback one. It works out perfectly that we can correlate one Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen and also Devin Singletary. If that team does well, we're back on the clock right now. We still have Dak on the board. Dak Prescott just went 2 picks before. We can take I don't think we really need to take a quarterback right now. At tight end, Evan Ingram's still on the board. And I think I might have to pull the trigger on that. It's looking good. So I like this team so far. Now at tight end, I just took Evan Ingram. I can take another one in the flex, but don't need to. I usually like to wait on tight end, but this is not a very deep best ball roster. Usually you have to take a lot more. We'll have to take a deep bench, right? We still have 10 more players to take because of the bench spots. Typically, I like to wait on tight end. You still have Hayden Hurst, what his role is going to be. But Evan Ingram is going to be an absolute monster in this offense. I mean, you saw targeting the slot last year. That's all Daniel Jones did. Whether it was earlier in the year with Sterling Shepard before Golden Tate's suspension ended, then it became Golden Tate, then he got hurt and it was Sterling Shepard again. The slot is where he looked. Evan Ingram is obviously not a slot wide receiver. He's a tight end, but he plays in the slot more than he actually stays up on the line of scrimmage to block. So that is a sneaky spot. I like getting him there at what is, I believe, my 8th pick in this draft. Now it's time to start scouting our second picks. Obviously, we want some quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is still on the board, but I don't feel comfortable with Aaron Rodgers right now. Let's see what our flex positions are looking like. John Brown's still on the board. I feel like we're having too much of the Bills offense if we get to John Brown, but who knows? Maybe not. Maybe not that full-on 4-man stack. We're starting to get to some of these rookie receivers, depending on where they land. I see Jerry Jeudy's name popping up right now as the 9th player on the board at the overall flex position. Interesting spots. I'll get into my overall lineup to my right in a second after our next wave of picks. We have Tyler Boyd on the screen. Joe Burrow seemingly going to be his candidate there. We have Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, the wide receiver 1 for Baltimore currently. He's still on the screen. Obviously a boomer bust guy. That's a player in best ball formats that I'd be much more likely. And right now I'm eyeing as the 3rd player on the board, 6 picks for my name. Hollywood Brown is not a guy that I really try to go out of my way to get to in season long. He's the poor man's Tyreek Hill, if you will, the very poor man's Tyreek Hill. Jerry Jeudy goes off the board, first rookie receiver, I believe. We also had J.K. Dobbins go off the board. A lot of people like J.K. Dobbins in this draft. I'm interested to see where he goes. A lot of people saying running back 3 off the board, potentially running back 4. Just looking over some of the names that went. Will Fuller, another name. A.J. Green with his injury status, but Will Fuller, another name similar to Hollywood Brown in terms of their upside is fantastic for these guys, but their down weeks might be literally 2 fantasy points, right? So Hollywood Brown is the next player on the board. We're back to Coach 21, the scapegoat, if you will, of not sniping us, being a good drafting partner right now. Sniping, if you're not familiar, and he takes Darius Geis. So I'm going to go ahead and take, I believe, Hollywood Brown. Let's look around and see if there's anything else here that stands out. Not much. Robbie Anderson, but he's now in a crowded receiving core. I'll take the guy who's the wide receiver 1 on his team right now. You can argue with me. Mark Andrews is the wide receiver 1 as a tight end hybrid, right in the middle of the field. But I'll go ahead. I'll take Hollywood Brown. I don't mind that at all. So I'm 9 picks in. I'm halfway through right now this draft. We're about 15 minutes through. So you can see these drafts go quick. This is going to last us probably 25 to 30 minutes at most. Kareem Hunt goes off the board. There goes Hayden Hurst. Feel good about the team. Let's pull up the team. It's going to be a little bit behind me to the right here. You can see it. The team is, right now, Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins, our wide receiver 1 and 2. That feels really strong. Our top 2 running backs are Miles Sanders and Devin Singletary. That feels strong. We have Stephon Diggs and Marlon Mack as our number 3 wide receiver and running back. That feels strong. I'm back on the clock, so I'm going to go snag a second quarterback right now. I can pair Julio with his Matt Ryan. Do we think the upside there is there for Matt Ryan, though? Typically, I'd probably go and take a risk on Daniel Jones or Joe Burrow. But since we already have Julio as our wide receiver 1, we'll take Matt Ryan. I don't love the upside of Matt Ryan. I do think he is a borderline top 12 quarterback. So if I have him as my quarterback 2, to say, and he stacks with one of my wide receivers because of this style of the format, best ball, I feel good about that. If Julio Jones has a really good year, it's probably meaning Matt Ryan has a really good year. Same thing can be said. You're probably not going to have a really good year out of Julio Jones. If Julio Jones does well, there's no way Matt Ryan doesn't have a good year. That's all I'm saying. Like, you're not going to get an injury to Matt Ryan and the backup comes in and just makes it a fantastic year for Julio. That's typically not how that works. So let's see. We got to pick some more flex players now to fill out that, and then our bench players, of course. But then my tight end is Evan Ingram. My wide receiver 4 is Hollywood Brown. I like the upside there at Hollywood Brown. I like the overall stack correlation of our Julio plus our our Matt Ryan. I love the Bills stack of Singletary. I think his arrow is pointing up heading into the second year. With Steph Diggs' first year there, I think that arrow is obviously pointing up with the top 10 wide receiver upside and huge week upsides. You usually have 1 to 3 weeks a year where Steph Diggs is a top 2 or 3 scorer on the slate. And then obviously Josh Allen's upside. So maybe we can get another full-on stack in here. It's just tough with Calvin Ridley off the board to really trust anything else in this Atlanta offense. Hayden Hurst went off the board as well to fill in for Austin Hooper now. CeeDee Lamb's on the board, and this is where it gets interesting. We don't have the draft yet. We don't know where these guys are going. So CeeDee Lamb can go to a really good spot with a average to above average quarterback, or he can go somewhere where the team has a terrible quarterback and it just ruins him. CeeDee Lamb goes off the board to pick 101. All right, I feel good about where this is at right now. You can start to look into now. We're getting into that range of guys that don't stand out as much. I'm about 5 picks away here. And we're going to be drafting some of our flex players. So this is where I'm going to start to look for upside, if you will. Maybe start to pick our second tight ends as we go through this range. I see Noah Fant popping up. Maybe not the type of guy I want to get to, but I don't think it's the worst idea. A guy that's on this board right now I actually have interest in, and we're 1 pick away, Coach 21 going here. 2 guys really on this board, but I think I'll snag one of them. One's a running back, one's a receiver. One running back, Darrell Henderson Jr. Malcolm Brown is technically the starter on this team. He goes Emmanuel Sanders. So I want to choose between, we have 15 seconds, Darrell Henderson Jr. and Darius Slayton. I think I like Darrell Henderson Jr. here a little bit more because I already have that 4th receiver. We'll go with Henderson Jr. Now, Henderson Jr. can be an absolute flop for us. He was last year if you drafted him early for some reason. He got up to like the 5th round in a lot of drafts earlier on, but no Todd Gurley. That's 71% of the snaps gone. That's 85% of the touches inside the 5-yard line gone. So now you're going to have Henderson Jr. competing with Malcolm Brown. Brown hasn't done much with his opportunities there. He's been very average. No, average is an overstatement. Below average, right? A 2 to 3 yard per carry type of guy in that offense. Henderson Jr., somebody they invested a lot of capital in the draft last year. I do think that it's a nice option for upside. Now, if he busts, then this is probably a spot where you're like, oh, well, we took the risk there. But if he does well and he starts starting for a Rams team that lets running backs touch the ball often inside the red zone, it's a nice spot. The other guy that I wanted in Darius Slayton is still on the board, so I'm just going to take him. He's my 5th receiver right now. We'll see how much more players I get to. I wanted Slayton or Henderson. We got both. Darius Slayton, why do I like him? Well, yes, I know you still have a ton of weapons out there. Evan Ingram, Saquon, Sterling Shepard, other guys out there in New York, and I get it. But you saw Daniel Jones start to develop a chemistry with Slayton on the outside. If this wasn't best ball, I probably don't take the chances on Slayton since Daniel Jones likes the slot guys. But on the outside, he saw a chemistry with Slayton last year. 2 touchdown games, big games on the outside. Slayton looked like a freak, both the speed and size combination. As my wide receiver 5, I'll take that risk. The weeks where Slayton's not doing well or going off, maybe that's the week where Hollywood Brown gets going. I feel consistency is coming from Julio, DeAndre Hopkins, and Stephon Diggs. If they stay healthy, I feel that they're going to be consistent enough for me to say, okay, feel good about those guys. If we get anything out of these boom wide receivers, right? Hollywood Brown, Slayton, and they overtake a DeAndre Hopkins that week, that means they're probably going off that week. So I like the system that we have right now. A bunch of stable wide receivers and tight ends. I'm going to have to go and get another tight end here. I can't just get out of this draft with 1 tight end because then it's only taking my Evan Ingram score each week. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's going to take the highest score, and for running backs and receivers, usually the top 2 scores. But for tight end, it'll only take the highest score of your tight end that week. So if you have 3 tight ends on your roster, that's great. It'll choose out of those. So it's a little bit of strategy. Having at least 2 makes sense. If one of them gets hurt, you're screwed every week. You're taking a 0, right? So having at least 2 makes sense. 3 can make some sense depending on your roster depth. We already have 5 receivers. I would like to get to 5 running backs. I would like to obviously get to another quarterback if we could. You can see Jeff Driscoll just had to go off the board. I don't know if that was actually out of need. That wasn't out of need. That was probably out of trolling. But Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Tannehill is still on the board here. We'll go with potentially another tight end here. You can see our flex is still in play. Obviously, that's just something that we can fill whenever we really want to each week, or it'll automatically fill in for us. Let's look at the overall board. Just saw Curtis Samuel went at pick 126. That's very interesting. So we're in the 13th round now. I'm on the clock. Just looking at this a little bit, I do kind of want to go with a second tight end if anything's left. Mike Gesicki started to pop off a little bit last year. OJ Howard's requesting trades. Ian Thomas is down here. I think we have time. I'm going to go quarterback quickly, get a 3rd quarterback. Big Ben coming back. Jared Goff is down here. We can pair that with a running back. I'll go down to Jared Goff. Normally, I would go to Big Ben if this was later in the year, but we don't have as much information to kind of judge how he's just conditioning. So Goff loses Brandon Cooks. That's not great. I assume they're going to do something in the draft to replace him. So we have our 3 quarterbacks now. I think I'm going to get our second tight end the next time through. Start looking at running backs. Running backs at this point is upside. Tony Pollard is in a good spot if Mike McCarthy actually uses his backup talent, which he never did in Green Bay. But he's in a good spot. Obviously, if if and or when Ezekiel Elliott gets hurt. No starters really back here. Duke Johnson will be in for maybe 30% of the touches in that offense. Same things can be said for some of these other guys. So now that we're down here, I don't really feel the need to get to that right now. Jonnu Smith is somebody that I like. Let's go Ian Thomas. If this was a 30-second clock, I probably would have went with Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith's the safer pick there, but in that offense was never used that much. He's a good blocking tight end, and it's a run-heavy offense, so you're going to get situations where he was just mainly used for blocking, but a younger player has a lot of upside. We go Ian Thomas, a very similar player with a lot of upside. An offense that has a lot of mouths, so if I was to critique my own pick, probably wouldn't do that one again when you have guys like Blake Jarwin, Dallas Goedert on the board still, but we'll take the boom upside or the potential booming upside there out of Ian Thomas, where we saw a couple of weeks this past season, when that happened when he had garbage quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater's not no fantastic quarterback, but he's very much known for checking down to slot wide receivers, tight ends, and pass-catching running backs. We're heading into round 14, so we probably got only 5 minutes or so of this draft. So these things are quick. It's only been 20 minutes so far. So yeah, if you are interested in doing the next one, you're still watching to this point, let me know in the comments. I'll be posting on Twitter when I do these mock drafts, probably on a weekly basis once July hits, so about 8 of them a week. But I do like this. This is a fun format. We can get to see how the ADP changes throughout the year. I'm going to grab another running back, which is going to be just hoping for upside here out of these guys that are left. Maybe trying to get a handcuff in best ball, which isn't the greatest idea, because then you're banking on a player getting injured, which never hurts your overall upside. But I have Miles Sanders. Boston Scott still on the board. It's not a terrible option. These are all backups as we speak, or even third string guys, so not much left. I'm trying to see if there's any other rookies in this player pool right now. I'm not seeing any as I scroll down. Let's look what's all left on the board. Deontay Johnson's on this board? Well, I'm 3 picks away, and I did not see Deontay Johnson was on the board. He's still available. He's a wide receiver. I already have 5, but obviously Juju is going to be back and healthy. Deontay Johnson just goes off the board to Buddy at 146. Buddy must have been listening. Deontay Johnson's a great pick. He was a rookie last year, was fantastic, not only on special teams, but he was amazing. He had the most receptions out of every single rookie last year. I believe that to be correct. That's fantastic. It was either most receptions or most targets. So I'm on the board. I would have taken Deontay Johnson with my previous pick had I seen that. So it's a rookie mistake for the first draft of the year. Heading down a little bit more here. Let's just see what we got at running back. Tony Pollard does stand out. He's probably the highest upside guy outside of Boston Scott. I'll snag Pollard as just sort of the guy who, if Zeke does get hurt, you're looking at a top 10 running back each and every week with that offensive line, with that total offense, and with his skill set. I'm very shocked Deontay Johnson was on the board. I'll probably snag another. We have 3 more picks left. I'll probably snag another tight end here. A lot of tight end at them. I'm actually really upset that I chose Ian Thomas. Would have had Deontay Johnson instead of Ian Thomas 100% of the time. We're back here again with another tight end option. Dallas Goedert on the board. Never a bad idea. Looking down a little bit more, it does seem like Goddard's our best bet. I'm going to take Goedert. You have Irv Smith. He's still behind Kyle Rudolph. So we have 3 tight ends now. I feel good. It's Goddard, it's Ian Thomas. I would have taken Goddard earlier anyways, so it's kind of like flipping them, Goddard and Thomas. We got to get to both of them. But you have David Njoku competing with Austin Hooper. You have Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph competing with each other. Nick Boyle, not going to have to compete anymore with Hayden Hurst, but obviously Mark Andrews is there. Chris Herndon's a very interesting option. Probably a guy that if I was to not have taken Ian Thomas and Ian Thomas left, I would have taken the risk on Chris Herndon, guy who's just battled a lot of injuries and suspensions the last couple of years. You have Vance McDonald dealing with Eric Ebron now out there. So a lot of guys in competitions, if you will. So I'm at least happy that we got Dallas Goedert, who's in a competition, of course, but they run the most 2 tight end sets in the league last year, above 50%, above 55% the past 2 years in Philadelphia. So it's not even that big of a deal. He can find success even when Ertz is healthy, as he has the last 2 seasons. So we got our 3 tight ends, 5 running backs, 5 receivers, 3 quarterbacks. Got about 2 picks left. I'll probably just take whatever's best left on the board here. People have their different strategies. I'll take best player available type of thing. The upside of these guys. Now, normally, if I knew where these players were going, so in our next mock draft, like you see T. Higgins is on the board. He'll probably be 3rd or 4th round pick type of guy, wide receiver, I would assume. So it depends on where he lands. Like if he lands with the Packers and now he's going to be in a situation where he's playing with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and he's like the number 2 or 3 guy there, there's upside. But for right now, he might not even be a starter. Hunter Renfrow out of the slot is not a guy in best ball that I really want to get to. He's your nice PPR, gets you 7 to 12 points a week guy when he's not scoring a touchdown, but he's not the type of guy that I want to really get to in these formats. Corey Davis is there, who has just been falling down with A.J. Brown next to him. D.D. Westbrook falling down with D.J. Shark next to him last year. So not much left on the board. Oh, I actually like this name here. N'Keal Harry, if he stays on the board, or Brashad Perriman with the Jets. These are 2 names that I can get behind. Brashad Perriman, now no Robbie Anderson. These are actually a couple of names I really like. So they're both still on the board, I believe. Yes, we're one pick away, so we're going to guarantee ourselves one of them. N'Keal Harry or Brashad Perriman. I'm going to go with Perriman just because of more stable quarterback play, but who knows? Maybe the Patriots trade up in the draft and go ahead and get Tua, and now you're in a situation, I don't know if he starts right away, but you're in a situation where you have a potentially better quarterback than Sam Darnold, so the better pick would have been Harry, and that's why it's interesting to see the strategy right now. Taylor Gabriel goes, I'm going to go Brashad Perriman here. Seeing if there's anybody else below him that stands out. I'll go Brashad Perriman as our wide receiver 6. He's the type of guy I think has a lot of upside, mixing in consistency, guys, with our first 3 wide receiver picks, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio, and Steph Diggs, mixing in the boomer bust type of guys with Hollywood Brown, with Brashad Perriman, with Darius Slayton, those types of guys. I'm picking again. Let's see. We can continue to just load up on these wide receivers, but we might want to get some more running backs in here. Not a lot of running backs standing out, though. That's the issue. We're on the board here. T. Higgins is on the board. We don't know where he's going to go. N'Keal Harry is still on the board, and I think I might take the shot. I'm going to go N'Keal Harry. First round pick last year, dealt with injury. No Tom Brady. If we can get any decent quarterback, as a ambulance goes by me, if we can get any decent quarterback in New England, I feel good about N'Keal Harry. First round pick last year, might have been a reach in the draft, but dealt with injuries. Tom Brady honestly might have held him back. He didn't. Apparently, there was rumors he did not like him. So I'm not too upset with the N'Keal Harry pick. I actually like it as my wide receiver 6 at this point, fills in our flex spot, and now that is our total draft. So I'll review my draft right now. But we got all 18 players, 3 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 receivers, 3 tight ends, and a flex. Probably could have taken some risks in some other spots. I wonder if Tua was drafted. Can't see the board now. But yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with where we're at with that. I think we have 6 upside receivers no matter what. I think we have 4 very stable backs with one who has a ton of upside in Tony Pollard if things were to happen to Zeke. And even we saw last year, 2 to 3 weeks, Tony Pollard probably would have been a best ball contender for a top 2 running back on your team with the weeks that he had. The one memorable one was in Miami where he went for like 100 yards in the 4th quarter alone. So that's it. Pick 180 is in with Adrian Peterson. Let me view my team. So this is drafters.com. Again, you can check them out if you want to get $10 for free to play. You can do that with the promo code SAL100 below. But this is the team, and I feel good about it. So there's my picture up top. I feel good about this team. We'll do a quick review of it, and then we'll head out. So here's my 18 players. Josh Allen, Matt Ryan, and Jared Goff are my 3 quarterbacks. Feel strong about that. We actually have a good correlation with Josh Allen and Matt Ryan in terms of having players from their teams. Running backs, Darrell Henderson Jr. as our RB4, so that's a little bit sketchy. But Devin Singletary, Miles Sanders, Marlon Mack. Not the strongest of running back cores since we went wide receiver to start, but I do feel good about Miles Sanders, and I do feel good about Devin Singletary. I think both arrows are pointing up. I think Marlon Mack is sort of plateauing right now, but if we get any news that he's actually going to be catching passes this year for once instead of Nyheim Hines, which is the big risk. Phillip Rivers loves to check down. That offense should be more consistent. It's a awesome offensive line that they continue to just make even better. Tony Pollard, again, you're going to get some boom weeks even with Zeke there, but probably 1 or 2 in the year. You need Zeke, something to happen to him, which we're never going to hope for, but you never know. And then our wide receivers, I feel, is the strongest part of this team. DeAndre Hopkins, our number 2 overall pick behind Julio, that feels really good. And Steph Diggs, those 3 guys are very staple players for upside and floors. I love it. And then you fill in the rest of your wide receivers with Slayton, Hollywood Brown, a starter on his team. The number 1 on his team is our 4th receiver. That feels great. Slayton, Brashad Perriman, where Crowder's still there in the slot, but there's no Robbie Anderson. Brashad Perriman's now going to take on that Robbie Anderson role. Another year of Sam Darnold, hopefully fully healthy this year. Doesn't feel awful. Tight end I actually like. I like that we were able to get Evan Ingram. Dallas Goedert is our number 3 tight end off the board, but he's probably our number 2. Ian Thomas, probably the one pick that I actually do regret in this draft was Ian Thomas. Had I noticed, I was too focused on getting a backup running back to not actually look at the talent left on the board for that specific pick. Had I had 20 more seconds instead of the fast draft, which I set, so I can't blame anybody but myself, I would have taken Deontay Johnson there, which probably would have meant that I wouldn't have gotten N'Keal Harry, which I would have rather had Deontay Johnson than N'Keal Harry. The more I think about it, it's not that far of a gap. And then our last wide receiver pick was N'Keal Harry, who first round talent last year, dealt with injury, dealt with a bad offense, dealt with a bad situation. Tom Brady didn't like him, whatever it was. Obviously, if it's Jared Stidham, N'Keal Harry's not going to feel like a great pick. If it's Jameis Winston, if it's Cam Newton, if it's Tua, they trade up somehow in this draft, right? That seems like wishful thinking. Don't worry, I'm not a Patriots fan. Just I've heard some reports and rumors of that potentially. Well, then you feel a little bit better out N'Keal Harry. That's the whole point of the strategy right now. It'll change after the draft. We'll have a better spot. We'll have an understanding of where these players are playing and how their roles in the offense will at least look early on. Thank you for tuning into this mock draft. Mock draft number 1 of the NFL Fantasy 2020 season, a best ball style. If you're interested in getting into one of these, you enjoyed watching this, listening to it, you thought it was a cool way of breaking it down, cool content, there's 11 viewers. 11 followers that were in this. So if you're interested, let me know, and I'll be sure to advertise it in the videos when the next one's coming up on Twitter. Get in there. This is a 12-man league, and I'll be doing one once a week once the summer comes in July and August, but hopefully we can do them even more than that if this actually gains some traction and you all enjoy it. So thanks for tuning into this. Hit the subscribe button before you go if you haven't already seen it popping up a couple other times during this show. Follow me on Twitter on the screen at Sal Vetri DFS. If you liked this and you want to know where you can do some mock drafts for free, you can do them over here on Drafters, some free leagues, or you can do some pay leagues here for best ball that actually count towards the season. You want $10 for free upon sign up, Sal100. That is the link down below, or you can just use the promo code on screen. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my @SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me. Or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.